welcome to the first and I don't know, maybe last. We'll see how this podcast goes. Episode of the Revive Des Moines podcast. Excited to be here. Got our first guest ever, Mike, Pastor Mike. Some may know him. He is that guy right there. If you're watching the video, and doesn't matter if you're listening. But we just thought we would ask you a couple questions, get to know you a little bit, and then there's a story that I've heard before that I would love for you to share with everybody. And two, we have a few just Instagram questions from people who've submitted questions about you that I'd love to ask if you have a chance. But first, why don't you
just... Do I have to answer truthfully or just...
That's up to you.
I make up whatever I want.
That is up to you.
All right.
Might be more fun if you make up a few, tell the truth a few, and then
you
we
can
just
guess.
we just have to figure it out.
Yes, I'm good at that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, who are you? You're Mike. You're a pastor.
I am.
How do we know each other? Maybe we could start there.
Yeah.
People did ask that. Basically, how did I end up in Iowa is the question that leads to how do we know each other?
Yeah. I think we met when you were like 16, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Ish, something like that.
Yep.
About to be a junior in high school or halfway through junior year in high school, something.
Yeah, right around there.
Something.
Because I started
like
going
that.
to church right as you started being the youth pastor.
Yeah. So like summer of 2009. Is that? Yeah, there it is.
It's a whole decade of.
It's a long time ago. I had hair back
it was
then.
A crazy time.
I had very little hair here and a lot of hair here. I still do.
No beard.
Not everyone knows.
Top hair
so
is what
that's why I'm wearing the hat.
It was thinning quick.
So that new subscribers think I have hair.
I remember when you officially went to shaving your head and thinking you were making the worst mistake of your life. Like, what are you doing? You look so bad.
Yeah. Well, I buzzed it I was just short for a while first. I did make the move to just short hair. But I had there was it just wasn't, the receding hairline was getting pretty weird shaped.
It was the right call looking back at it.
Yeah.
But in the moment, I didn't like it.
Well, going all the way bald was better than like the buzzed hair where you could still see how weird my hairline was at that point.
I'm just hoping that I can hang on to as much hair as I can for as long as I can.
I'm rooting for you.
Thank you. I appreciate
I'm rooting for you.
Awesome.
But yes, summer 2009, when you were like going into your junior year of high school, we met and I was doing high school ministry, and that's had a fun couple years. And then I think I recruited you to be a volunteer leader when you went to college to like lead a freshman group of high school people. And then through a little bit of wrangling, I convinced the church, just here and there, a little bit of convincing.
6 months straight of meetings,
a little bits of a little hard selling that we needed to hire interns. So we paid you $150 an hour, something to that effect.
It was really close to that. Yeah, they did
$150 a year. Is that?
Yeah, sorry. Cool.
Yeah, not an hour.
$150 a year. It's way more accurate.
To work 10 hours a week as an intern.
Yep. No, which was great. And
minimum wage was lower back then, I think.
It was, but also, yeah, I think my first job was $6.50 an hour, which yours was. I'm guessing if you made minimum wage, your first job was lower than that. Or maybe you never made it with minimum wage
at my first job.
Just that high quality of a worker.
No, I spent some summers laying sod, which was really dirty hard work. More money. But it wasn't a ton more than minimum wage, but it was above minimum wage.
That's a win.
So that was, yeah.
But yeah, and then so I interned for you for a couple years, and then after you came to plant Revision in Des Moines, I said, see ya, have fun in Iowa, and was the interim. Took that job while they were looking for someone else. They were hoping it'd probably last a few weeks, maybe a couple months, that stretched into a couple years, so joke's on them. And then here, after some meetings halfway in Clear Lake, some convincing from the Lord.
Some terrible food.
Terrible.
If you ever stop in
Clear Lake. We'll have to do next episode of you on. We're going to talk about the worst food in Iowa.
Where not to eat in Clear Lake.
All of the places.
Everywhere.
Don't go there for food. If you like,
there's an Arby's.
Somewhat dirty lakes. Clear Lake is the place for you.
Yeah, but if it's not clear,
if
that's
you're a cuisiner, Do not go to Clear
That's
Lake.
a lie.
Mm-hmm.
All the places were bad. I think they were all the same place, too. We realized after eating at one restaurant, it was just connected through a door. It had the same menu, same kitchen, same bad food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of food, you are on a quest to find the best breakfast food in America.
Yeah.
And you were asking me a question about breakfast right before I push record. Do you want to ask and answer that for the world?
Yeah, I was just asking, like, if you had to pick, like, a style of breakfast food, would you go with, like, the pancake and French toast, sweet syrup breakfast food, or if you had to just pick one or the other for the rest of your life, like pancakes and French toast or bacon and eggs style breakfast?
And I definitely bacon and eggs. I don't like sweet breakfast food. I don't like...
You don't like cake?
Cake.
No.
Sorry, we just got both of the subscribers we had rounded up in this last 6 minutes are gone now. Yeah. I don't like cake, don't like a lot of desserts, and that's the fault of my own. A lot of people are praying for me. It's just part of who I am. We live in a fallen world, I guess, is what people tell me.
It's a little weird that you hate cake as much as you do.
I'm sorry. I think
and cupcakes and pancakes and...
Yeah, it's just like almost a PTSD of my high school job where I worked at Pump It Up, the inflatable party zone, kids' birthday cakes, and then parents would order like a full sheet cake for the 12 6-year-olds at their birthday party, and then be like, oh, we don't need this leftover cake, we'll just leave it here. And then the staff would, perfect, now we have dinner. And we just eat so much cake. And I think I'm all caked out. I met my quota.
I feel like that's fair because my first church job, the one where we met, people, like old people were there all the time, and they would bring, well, they're like, once you hit 80, you're like, who cares? What can food do to me now? I'm going to eat whatever I want. And so they brought in sweets all the time. And then every time there was a party or a wedding or anything, there was the Costco cake that has like cake, pudding, cake, frosting. Yep. And the first time I ate it, I thought, this is the most amazing cake ever. And the 5,000th time I ate it in a 6-year span, I thought, I'm never even going to go to Costco because I hate the cake so much.
That seems a little extreme.
Well,
but I get it.
Sometimes you gotta take drastic measures.
So yeah, I was thinking back to one of the first sorry, I have to be honest. I don't remember word for word a lot of the sermons you gave, but I know like what you said.
I'm gonna walk off right now.
I can't remember. There's a few things I can remember though, and I know that just through how you led, you shaped who I am today, and were a big part of just my spiritual development and just human development and becoming the person. But one of the first stories I ever remember you sharing was you getting in a wheelchair, and there was a big hill. Yeah. And so you wanted to go down that hill in the wheelchair.
I did.
And just, thinking back, you had, it was a high school ministry of a few hundred students. You had to, right from the get-go, you have to tell this banger story to kind of get us on your side. Like, who's this new guy? Are we going to like him?
Want to let you know who I am.
Yeah, so we got to figure out who is Mike. And you told the story about the wheelchair. And I thought maybe just to lighten the mood of this fun quarantine self, which, again, we're keeping a barrier between us.
Yes.
Plenty of hand sanitizer nearby. But
clear glass. If you're watching the video, you can't see it because that's how clean it is. But
we're known for our cleanliness.
So, wheelchair story?
This is a camp in Eldora?
Yes. So I grew up going to Pine Lake Christian Camp in Eldora, Iowa, and spent a couple summers working there.
Not a sponsor of the show, but a great camp.
Yeah. Great place. And one summer I decided I was going to volunteer up there, actually just for a week because... long story short, there was a girl going to camp, and she was a year younger than me, and she was camping, and I thought, hey, I could work in the maintenance. I'm not handy.
I can do 7 days of proximity.
They'll take volunteers, however they'll get them. And so I went up there, and I was working like maintenance for a day and mowing and all that kind of junk. And that night, I had a couple friends who were working at the camp that summer as well, Jason and Becca, and we went into town in Eldora, which is a booming metropolis of, I don't know.
From what I've seen, because we've gone to Pine Lake Camp, there's got to be 40 people that listen.
It can't be, it's got to be like
maybe a couple thousand.
Over
maybe?
1,000, less than 2,000. Over 1,000, less than 3,000. Somewhere in that range.
1 to 2 would be my guess. Maybe 14.
Somewhere.
You tell the story. I'm going to look up how many people live in Eldora.
Somewhere in that range. So not a real big town. So we're just driving through this little town, and there was a sign with a hand on it that said "this way," which, you know, what are you gonna do? Not go that way? I'm a rule follower, as you know. So there was a sign that said "this way." We went to it. We ended up at an assisted living facility, and sitting right next to the dumpster, like up against the dumpster, was a wheelchair. Which you're like, oh my goodness, this is clearly a sign from the Lord that we should be grabbing a wheelchair today.
This.
And we thought, who would throw out a perfectly good wheelchair? What a waste. So we picked it up, and we drove through town till we found this big hill. We're like, we are gonna ride the wheelchair down the hill. And so I think my friend Jason went first, and then I went, and we realized, oh, it was not you know why the wheelchair was by the dumpster? It was not a perfectly good wheelchair. That
is shocking.
Yeah, it had one tire that was like flat or warped or something, so it kept pulling to
the big one.
I think so. Yeah, because the little ones are pretty.
The little ones, I just
solid.
see them.
They're solid.
Shaking the whole way down the hill.
Yeah, they're solid. So one of the big ones was flat or warped a little, so it would pull to the left, and so, my friend Jason had this idea. He's like, "Hey man, what if I sit in the wheelchair and you stand on the back?" Because there were these two, like, I don't know what they're for. Probably for steering. Like, you could use your foot to steer them. But
like
there are
wheelchair pegs.
Yeah,
on your bike?
like pegs on the wheelchair, and there were those. And I thought, this is the greatest idea I've ever heard. Yeah, and then we could lean. We could use our weight if there were two of us to keep the wheelchair going straight. And we could ride down the hill.
That's good sense.
Yeah, it's physics, right? You know, if I was been into physics,
you weren't just a maintenance
in a big
worker.
Way. No. Yeah, kind of, you know, young Stephen Hawking at the time. I thought, if I just lean, that's going to be the key. So I hopped on the back, and Jason sat in it, and we started riding down this hill, and it was a pretty steep hill. So it's in the middle of the street, of course, because you can't go in a yard. It could be bumpy.
Yeah, so which is probably safe because, as I've learned, it's actually a little bigger than we thought. 2,600 people in Eldora.
All right, yeah.
But you're probably not going to see a lot of traffic. So
not a ton.
Probably fine in the street.
10 or 11 o'clock on a Monday night or something like that.
Okay, you're safe.
So
rush hour is past.
Yeah, it's gone. There's nothing open. Like, you couldn't get gas.
Well, it is past 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
so.
There's no restaurant. Nothing's open in the town. So we're heading down this hill, and we're picking up steam. Like, I was leaning so that it wouldn't, like, leaning all my weight onto the good wheel. And about halfway down, you knew, like, we are gonna crash. We're gonna crash and burn. Like, at some point, this is probably gonna end badly. And so I processed it in my head, like, I'm careening down the hill, and I was like, I should bail right now. I should just jump off. But then I was wearing a really sick soccer jersey. So I was like, oh like, I love this jersey. I
scrape it.
Manchester United, they're my guys. And I was like, I can't hop off and like scratch up my soccer jersey. That would be.
And knowing what happens next is just like that makes a lot of sense for you. I could see you wanting to destroy your body over.
Oh yeah, you can't.
Scraping, possibly tearing your jersey.
I had that shirt for a long time after this night, you know, and I was
because you were cautious about it.
Yeah, you can't be careless with your things.
Technically, you still have your collarbone too. So
yeah, well, yeah,
you got both of them.
I do. So it worked out fine, but I decided not to bail because I don't want to wreck my shirt. And we get to the bottom, and it's an intersection, like a 4-way stop. We did not stop. Okay, 4-way stop. But what little did we know, because we had never made it down the hill before, this street was maybe not the finest, smoothest paved street in America. There was about a 1-inch lip in the pavement as you hit that intersection.
Like going in from the street into the 4-way?
Yeah, so like the cross street was about 1 inch higher than the street that we were headed down the hill on, which if you were in a car would have felt like a little bump. If you're in a wheelchair with two people flying down a hill, it feels like maybe a mogul or something like that. Yeah.
It's like running into a curb.
so we hit it, and weirdly enough, here's the physics again. It stopped our momentum just enough, or it stopped Jason and itself, the wheelchair. It did not stop me because my body was flying. So at that point, as soon as we hit,
object in motion,
I flew.
Stays in motion.
I flew over Jason's head, like I saw him underneath me, and I flew all the way over him. And he then, with my weight coming off the back, he flipped backwards. And the wheels were still spinning. So he flipped backwards onto his back, hit his head on the pavement, and then the wheels carried him probably another, in my exaggeration, so it was like 100 feet, but it wasn't that far. But it was probably like
hundreds of yards.
It was probably 20 or 30 feet, at least maybe more, like 10 or 20 yards. Like the wheels spun him. So he's like on his back. Thankfully, Thankfully,
I hope everyone listening can see this happening. Action movie slow-mo explosion style.
Thankfully, the pleather backing to the thing was padded, so he didn't scrape up his
pleather.
back. Yeah, I think it was a nice pleather.
Wow, I didn't know this was a fancy
vinyl.
wheelchair.
I don't know, but it was padded. But he did scrape up his arms really bad because they were like on. So he zooms down, and I flew over his head, and I'm watching this happen. And then I don't remember hitting, but I made it all the way across the intersection. So in the air, I made it from like the middle over to like the side by a curb, and then I decided, well, I don't want to getting hit would really be a bummer. So I rolled off onto the grass up over the curb, and then our friend Becca, who was watching this entire thing, is running down. Like, are you guys okay? Are you guys okay? Are you guys okay? She comes running down the hill, and Jason is like being a whiner. He's like, oh, I hit my head on the pavement, and look, and his arms were all bloody, and he's like, I'm bleeding. And at this point, I'm just laying in the grass, and I was like, I'm fine. Oh, whew.
Was this moment of clarity? Was this you were trying to be tough?
No, I was feeling good. Actually, I at this point in time, I thought like, oh, I'm totally fine. Wow, this was crazy. I can't believe I did it. My soccer jersey.
Lucky me.
Praise the Lord is good. And so I'm just laying in the grass like, whew, wow, that was a crazy experience. We'll bandage Jason and go again, I guess. Okay. But
can't end on a sour note.
Yeah, no, you don't want to end with we'll just have to steer better or something. And then I went to I was laying on my stomach, and at that point I went to push myself up, and my right side pushed up, and my left side did not go. Like nothing happened when I just doing a push up, and my left side was just still stuck on the ground, and then the most excruciating pain I've ever felt in my life started shooting through my entire chest and shoulder and back. And I realized I am not fine. That was a lie. That was a lie. I'm not fine.
Thank the Lord. Jersey still fine.
Yeah.
Mike not fine.
No, in just incredible searing pain. I was like, oh, never mind. I am not fine. I don't know what just happened, but my left side is not moving. So I sat down in the wheelchair. Clearly, we had a wheelchair. I'm not going to walk up the hill in intense pain.
A wheelchair nearby. That's convenient.
What are you going to do? You're going to try and walk back up while you're in pain? No. I had two friends and one wheelchair. So they wheeled me back up to Becca's van, and we headed straight to the hospital, which in a town of 2,800 people has two people working. And I went in, and I needed some pain meds really, really bad. Just intense.
Sure, going into shock.
Intense pain.
Crazy. Yeah. Been there, broken enough bones on my own.
So I'm there, and they're like, well, we're going to have to call the X-ray operator, because at a hospital that size, in a town that size, there was one person who lives in Eldora who knows how to run the X-ray machine. And sure enough, she was not working at that point, probably 10:30 or 11 p.m. on a random weeknight.
That
right?
Makes sense, yeah.
So they called her, and she was in bed, and I'm just waiting. And until they gave me the X-ray, they couldn't give me any pain pills because they didn't want. I don't know. I'm not a.
I guess that makes sense. They don't just want to hand them out, but you would. Yeah, I guess I don't know.
I had to prove an X-ray is going to show you that I'm in pain.
Ah!
Oh yeah.
The screaming.
Yeah.
Help me!
Just can we just trust that it hurts and give me a Tylenol? I don't know. So I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, and it felt to me it felt like hours. It was probably minutes, but it felt like hours for this lady to come x-ray me so I can finally get some pain meds. And I thought I was going to pass out. I've never actually passed out in my entire life. But I told the nurse, I was like, wow, I've never felt this before. I'm going to pass out. And she said, yep, you are. I've seen a lot of people pass out. And then she put a cold rag on my head, and I didn't pass out. So
thanks, doctor, for the cold rag.
Yeah, I was proud of that, I guess. And after what felt like hours, but it might have been minutes, the x-ray technician lady walks in with a coffee and a donut from Hy-Vee. And I was just like, look, I know.
Mike, you woke her up.
I realized you had to get out of bed for this, but could you have got the donut and the coffee maybe on the way home? Because I'm sitting here in incredible pain, and they won't even give me ibuprofen until you take this, but I'm glad you got your sugar fix.
I can see her at the gas, like, got called in again.
Yeah.
Gotta get my stuff.
Like, I was displeased that she had decided to stop along the way.
I can imagine.
But
did she finish her donut before giving the x-ray?
Just while she was doing it, kind of like just eating the donut, holding the x-ray clicker with one hand. And so that was great. And the x-ray machine, so the worst part was it was such an old fuzzy x-ray. I couldn't even tell what it was supposed to look like. And then I got, like, eventually I went home. Like the next day I went home and they took a new x-ray at the hospital in Davenport. And then I could actually see. I was like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. Gotcha. It looked like a child's drawing, or it looked like watercolor child's drawing. It was just really fuzzy. But turns out what I had done is when I was flying over Jason, waving at him down below, and he was skidding along the pavement, I had flown across the entire intersection and smashed my shoulder into the curb on the far side. And I snapped a 1-inch piece right out of the middle of my collarbone. It was just dangling into my shoulder. So it was kind of like it was disconnected from my neck side and still connected a little bit to just like hanging on by a thread to the piece that was still connected to my shoulder. And it was just dangling into my body there. And I had to wear like a figure 8 strap and a sling. And it makes, if you go to volunteer to impress a girl and then you walk into breakfast the next morning in a figure 8 strap and a sling, it does not impress.
Does not. I could see it going the other way, though, where you get the sympathy of, oh, can I help you? Let me take your tray up. Let's chat.
Nope. Okay. That's not how it went.
It's okay. It's all right.
It was more, wow, this guy is a real idiot.
Well,
so
fair. But so maybe
that was.
It was good that you were only working there for like a week versus the whole summer.
Yeah. It was. That was quite a thing.
How long did it take to heal?
Oh man, I think I was supposed to not like. When was I? It was sometime in July, and I missed the first week or two of the football season. So,
oh, wow. So like a couple months?
Like 2 months.
Wow.
And then I was supposed to not, allegedly I was supposed to not tackle anyone for another month after that. But that's not a thing you can tell a high school football coach. Be like, yeah, coach, the thing is, coach, you can put me in at places where I won't get hit really hard or I won't have to tackle anyone. But guess where you get to play if you can't tackle or be tackled? You get to play left out. So I just didn't. That was not my favorite position of all the ones. So I just did not tell them that. I was like, I'll just try and tackle people with my right shoulder.
Smart.
And if my collarbone breaks again, like, then it's a cool injury. Then you're like, yeah, I broke it playing football. I hit a big guy. And it's cooler than like
wheelchair hill. Ran into a curb.
Yeah, no, I'm a moron. Then you're tough, and you're like, it's a whole different thing. So I thought,
gotcha. It's about the story.
It'll be fine if I break it playing football. Then I can, that might impress a girl.
Maybe.
Whereas, like, I'm an idiot is generally not. It's not as good of a.
I had some hockey injuries, some sports injuries that did not pan out for me. So it's hard to say what works and what not. I think maybe the moral of the story is don't get hurt to impress a guy or a girl. That's probably not your first.
It's less impressive than you think it will be.
Yeah. You can be a heck of a storyteller, but There's only so much a slinged up arm can do for you.
Yeah. In high school and middle school, you think like, oh, I got to do all these crazy things to impress, someone from the opposite sex so that they'll like me. And then it turns out the older you get, they just don't really want to marry an idiot.
Yep.
Like if I gotta hitch my wagon to this human for the rest of my life, I'd rather if he or she wasn't a moron. So,
so work on that.
Yeah, that's a thing. That's a free advice.
No,
free advice.
That's good. That's funny. So that was the first story I think you ever told. And the first impression you left on me as a human being, and I was like, that guy, for a different reason, worked on me. He had me captivated. It was a great story.
There you go.
But as we wrap up today, as we leave here, do you have any sound advice, serious or not, for the student cooped up in their house, or anyone listening, in quarantine, in self-isolation, in #social distancing? What can we do to make the best of this situation?
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day because I have 4 kids and they're age 10, 8, and twins that are about to be 6, and they're frustrated with like the idea of being at home and not doing stuff, and they're almost at the point where they would like to go back to school, which is not that's weird and not normal, but we just don't like being cooped up. And I think I was thinking about this for myself, and I think it's totally true for students as well. It's so easy when things aren't normal and when things aren't necessarily the way we want them to be or the way we expected them to be. Like school has its ups and its downs, but one of the ups is like people and friends and fun and activities, and there's stuff to do. And it's easy. I found myself, I went for a walk the other day, and it was a rainy day, but it had stopped raining. I got about half mile from my house and it started downpouring. And so here's a thought from soaking wet, freezing cold Mike. I was just like realizing like, oh, this is so not where I want to be right now. I'm wet and I'm freezing, and it's, coronavirus and quarantine, and I was feeling grumpy in my heart. And then I remembered I love rain, and I like rain makes things green, and I love spring, and I'm sick of the brown. I thought like there's so much beauty to be found in little moments, but it's so easy when things aren't going the way we want or when things aren't the way we expect to just complain, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like the narrative we tell ourselves, we look in the mirror and we say like, this stinks, I hate this isn't what I want, I wish I was, and we fill in the blank with a whole bunch of stuff we wish we were doing instead. But if we can just press pause on like the things that we aren't doing that we'd like to be doing, and just realize like every moment and every day and every breath is a gift, and God's here, and there's something that he's going to do in us and something that he's teaching us in this season. And there's beauty all around us, even in a quarantine. There's like our families are frustrating sometimes. We're like, I'm sick of these people, or my parents are annoying. Like I know how it goes. My parents, I'm not quarantined with them, but they've been calling me a lot. So
it's a little.
I get it though, but. No, it's so easy to focus on the negatives, and I think that becomes like a death spiral for us. Like when we get caught up in that, when we see one negative thing and we get upset about it, it's easier to find another negative thing and another negative thing and another negative thing until we have this mountain of complaints. Yeah. And the worst part about that isn't that we're wrong necessarily. Like frustrations are frustrating, and that's fair, but it's that we end up in a spot where we miss out on some of the fun that we could be having and some of the beauty we could be seeing. And so if we just like, I'd say this, my best piece of advice, every day, try and find one awesome thing. Like just be intentional about it. Say, okay, today, like at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, I'm going to look for one thing that's cool about today. Like I got to do this and I wouldn't have otherwise. I got to spend this time with this person, or I looked out the window and I hear birds. Like it's spring. I don't know, but there's something good, and if we look for the good, that becomes a spiral too. And like in a season that maybe isn't quite what we would want and isn't the story we would have written if we could write any story we wanted, there's such cool stuff to experience, and there's so much fun to be had, and there's so much beauty in the world. And if we start looking for the good rather than complaining about the bad, I think what we're going to find is like a whole lot of peace and joy and a whole lot of fun that we would miss out on just because we had a bad perspective.
No, that's awesome. Sweet. thanks for that wisdom, rainy, cold Mike.
It was
totally agree.
amazing.
It's so easy to get stuck in that spiral, especially coming on like day 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 of no school and just like being at home. It's really easy to feel stuck. So thanks for that word.
Yeah, I just ate. I stuck out my tongue and like caught raindrops in my mouth for the first time in a long time, and it was amazing. And I was like,
Find
I can
the joy
either
in the little things.
I can either be grumpy and it's raining, and then, like get in the spiral of like it's cold and it's raining and now I'm wet and I don't have any hair, so it's colder for me than a normal human, or just be like, hey, I'm gonna catch raindrops in my mouth and be grateful that spring is coming, and it ended up being really fun. I was cold, but like it was. No, but it was like, I was just like, man, God is so good, and there's so much beauty all around me, and if I miss it, then I'm just robbing myself of the opportunity to have a better time and be a happier human.
Absolutely. No, awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And thank you guys for listening. This is the first ever Revive Des Moines podcast we've ever done. And so if you like it, like just hanging out, sharing stories, give us a thumbs up, 5-star review down below, comment some of your favorite things, maybe favorite parts of the story of Mike smashing his collarbone. But we're going to have some more fun people on, some fun interviews, and just hang out and talk about life, and hopefully just bring some joy to this less than ideal situation, and hopefully maybe provide a couple of those moments of joy that Mike was talking about. So thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with another episode.